The Wolverine MTW Billet Unleashed. It's about 7 months since I got this HPA-Replica. In the meantime, many things have changed, and I did some smaller and larger upgrades to this hoseless little beast. Today I even have to correct myself and say, in one aspect, HPA really is superior to the AEG platform. Join me in this video, learn more about the upgrades I did and about the resulting shooting performance. Also, I comment on the difference between 3000 and 4500 PSI tanks in the Unleashed size, and I show you my personal setup of filling the tanks at home. Why wait any longer? Let's get started. This is me, in my Airsoft gear, holding my HPA Airsoft replica. To be more precise, the only possible way I can imagine playing on HPA, which is without a hose coming out of the rifle. In this configuration, I really learned to enjoy HPA, and on the most outdoor fields I even prefer it over every single of my AEGs. Yes, it's the same guy talking here who made this video half a year ago. Did I change my mind so fast? Well, in one aspect, yes. And this aspect is air volume. We will come back to this point later, but let's take a closer look at the MTW first. To begin in the front section, I decided to install the original Novridge modular MOG suppressor without any internal modifications. It makes the replica even more quiet compared to the unit I used in my silencer video. I wrapped it with some fabric tape to make it a little more grippy, but that's basically it. On the handguard, I added some M-LOK rail covers from eBay and a Bugatti M-LOK handstop. Also the smaller M-LOK covers are from Bugatti. The offset iron sights, however, are only decoration. I don't use them in-game as the BBs would instantly curve, of course. As my primary aiming device, I use the Vortex Spitfire Gen 2 3x Prism Scope replica. With its compact dimensions and the useful magnification, it's the perfect fit for the MTW in my eyes. My new magazines of choice are the Battleaxe Enhanced Grip polymer magazines in the typical PMAG style. Those come in for only $7 per piece and feed surprisingly well, while the plastic surface appears sturdy and overall high quality. The air stock with the Wraith X regulator has not been changed. However, I tested both 3000 and 4500 PSI tanks in the last months. I found out there is a significant difference in terms of maximum shots you can get out of each filling, which I will present to you in a dedicated test later on. Okay, let's see what I did inside the MTW. It's not really a lot of upgrades actually, compared to the possibilities an AEG gives you, for example. All I did was changing the hopper bucking, the tensioner and the inner barrel. Here you see the upgraded combination. Maybe you'd like to ask why I did not change the hop-up chamber. Well, I did before and tried the Max Model M4W chamber, because I actually like the idea behind it. But after 2 games with this chamber, I really have to say I was not satisfied with the resulting performance, so I changed back to the original chamber, on which the hop consistency was a lot better again. Don't ask me why, I have no clue. The original Wolverine inner barrel was replaced by a TNT Air Cushion S Plus upgrade barrel, which is meant to guide the propellant air around the BB in the muzzle area. Therefore, it has some star-shaped like ventilation openings at the front end, which also require a little more air volume, so you have to set the dwell on the Inferno engine a little higher than usual. My new hopper bucking is the Bugatti SHP7. While the patch design is identical to the Fly 7 I tested in my AEG bucking comparison video, the sealing lips are optimized for HPA nozzles, according to Bugatti. I decided in favor of the SHP7 and not the Quantum Friction Pro, for example, because I need the extra long patch surface to hop heavier BBs in the 0.4 category upwards. The tensioner I'm using is the classic Maple Leaf Omega tensioner. I also tried 7mm tensioners to use the maximum potential of the 7mm hopper patch, but unfortunately the larger tensioner conflicted with the inner barrel window, so I had to go one step back to the 5mm tensioner. But as you also can see in my comparison video, 5mm tensioners and 7mm buckings still can give you very satisfying results. Also in this case, the patch comes down into the barrel straight and centered, just as it should be. I set the energy on the MTW Billet Unleashed to just below 1.5 joules, which is the common field limit for semi-automatic rifle replicas here in Germany. The consistency did not really change due to my upgrades, but no wonder, as it already has been alright before, and the engine, regulator and most of the relevant parts remained untouched, besides the bucking maybe. The BBs I use in the MTW are 0.4 gram ones by Lonex. If you ask me, the major advantage of HPA is the fact you can use quite heavy BBs compared to AEGs, where the limited cylinder volume restricts your choice, or the energy will drop. On HPA, you simply increase the dwell settings and have unlimited air volume, so to speak. Half a year ago, I did not consider this fact in my video, which has been watched almost 40,000 times up to date. Sorry for that. Please take this as an official correction of my statements. In case you want to play heavy BBs, HPA definitely has its benefits compared to AEGs, if you ask me. But will this bring a notable advantage on the shooting range? I went out to the field and tested the performance on 2 relevant distances for airsoft assault rifles, as always measured by laser rangefinder. On 45 meters, almost every shot hits the human-sized target. Especially in this setup, shooting free-handed and with slight wind from the right, this is a quite competitive performance in my eyes. On 65 meters, we still see many hits, although some BBs also go flying left and right. Of course, you still would be able to hit your target without any problems, for example when shooting groups of 3. This again shows us we're still in Airsoft, and even upgraded HPA replicas have their limits when talking about physics and external influences. Everyone who tells you they shoot lasers up to 100 meters in these energy limits tells you fairy tales. When building an HPA setup, thinking about a source of compressed air also is important. In case your field does not have a compressor to fill your tanks right on the game day, here are 2 options I use to do it at home. My main source is the Taxing air-cooled compressor. I bought this one 2 months ago for about 150 euros and I'm still quite happy with it. The compressor can fill tanks up to 4500 psi and is meant to work maintenance free. No oil or water to change. You just should think about an additional filter element like this one to avoid moisture getting into your HPA tanks. This compressor has no auto shut off, so you should keep an eye on it and turn it off once the temperature rises above 60 degrees Celsius, or when the maximum pressure is reached, of course. What I really like about this unit is the fact you can power it on both 230 volts at home or at 12 volts from your car battery. On this updated version, Taxing has managed to avoid the external converter and built it inside the housing instead, which is very convenient. The only thing which could be an issue is the durability. In case this compressor lasts me for several years, I think it's highly recommendable. We will see what the future brings. In case it breaks, I will give you an update on my channel, of course. I would like to quickly show you how the Taxing fills this 3000 psi tank. The first thing you will notice will be the quite loud ventilation noise, but I think it is necessary if you want this kind of a maintenance-free unit. I think it can be compared to a usual vacuum cleaner you have at home. Make sure the bleeding valve is closed, then you can turn on the motor. The manometers on both units do not always show the same pressure. To stay on the safe side, I suggest you follow the one with the higher value. Once the process is finished, make sure to open the bleeding valve first before disconnecting the hose to avoid injuries. Then there is also the manual pump option. It was my very first solution, and for filling the smaller 3000 psi tanks, the hand pump just works fine. It is exhausting, but it will do the job in about 5 to 7 minutes. On the 4500 psi tanks, however, you could do it in theory. But it needs so much force, I guess I'm just not strong or heavy enough to manage it. So I kept the pump as an emergency solution, but most of the time I rely on the tuxing compressor nowadays. Talking about different tank pressures, let's do a brief comparison of 3000 and 4500 psi as the last chapter of this video. Most important things first. The Wave X regulator can deal both, as long as the tank's output pressure is the same, usually about 800 psi. There is no difference in shooting performance, just the amount of shots you will get out of it are different. The 3000 psi tank has a capacity of 13 cubic inch and costed me about 35 euros. It is made of aluminum and comes with one O-ring on the outlet valve. Talking from my experience, those are solid and trustworthy tanks. Just make sure the little screws which hold the pre-regulator together sit tight. Otherwise, the tank could turn loose when you want to unscrew it from the MTW, which happened to me one time on the last game day. Those 4500 psi tanks from PoAir are made of steel and contain 14 cubic inch of compressed air. You see, the overall construction is built a lot more robust, including two O-rings on top and a rounded back end to withstand the higher pressure. Also, the price is more robust, as it costed me about 100 euros. For two of those, you could get 5 of the aluminum tanks. Now it's time to see how many more shots you will get out of the larger and more expensive tank, and if this justifies paying the extra money for it. The MTW settings are just the same as on the shooting test, just below 1.5 joules at 0.4 gram BBs with correct dwell settings. Of course, I do this without BBs, as I really would like to have enough money for food at the end of the month. It was very interesting to see the 4500 psi tank lasted almost twice as long as the 3000 psi tank. But on the other hand, this is the only result that actually could justify paying more than double the money, so it is not that much of a surprise, to be honest. So, in case your wallet allows it, I would recommend to go with the larger bottles, as they require less exchanges during one game day and therefore also mean less wear and tear on the threads. The reason why I mention this is that I actually see a lot of wear and tear on one of my tanks. After basically every game day, there is a lot of flaked off coating to be seen. So, here are 2 tips from my side. First, clean the threads after every removal of the tank and make sure there are no more residues. Second, apply a tiny bit of PTFE grease to the threads. Really, don't overdo it here, you don't want to have this grease in your HPA engine. But if you choose the right amount, you will notice how much smoother the tanks can be screwed in, and hopefully will last you a lot longer. After half a year of playing and upgrading my MTW Billet Unleashed, do I still think the same about it as when I got it brand new? On the one side, it is a lot of fun playing. I really like the sound, the advantage of heavier BBs and the simplicity of the system, especially without the hose. On the other side, I do not have significantly more fun with this rifle than with all of my AEGs the years before. It is nice to have, it is cool and it's fun, but it is still not a game changer for me, even after what I think I got most of the potential out of the platform. So, for me, the HPA hype still gives players, and especially beginners, a wrong impression of being superior on the field with those toys? Let me know in the comments what you think and what I could improve on my HPA setup in the future. I am thankful for every hint. I'd be glad to see you again in one of my future videos. So long, have a good one.